Hey, how y'all doing, man? This is Mongo Slade, and today we're going to talk about the rumor. It's just a rumor that at least five WWE talents are being sent to the Performance Center for quote refining and improving their in-ring skills at the request of Vince McMahon and WWE. Okay, so let's get right into it. The five people mentioned are Otis, Keith Lee, Dabba-Kato, Dio Madden, and Omos. Now, looking at this list, well, let's continue the story. So it says they're going to be sent to the Performance Center on Tuesdays and Thursdays for extra trainings under Drew Gulak and Adam Pearce. So the internet had a meltdown, obviously, right? Because that's what the internet does. They react to things horribly. Instead of trying to look at what I looked at, I mean, as soon as I saw Keith Lee and Otis, it clicked with me. I mean, as soon as I saw Keith Lee and Otis, I knew what it was. It's the weight. Okay? WWE has a history of really being hard on bigger dudes because that's sort of the WWF bread and butter. They love big guys, but big guys break down very easily. So you have you live in a world right now, where the gyms are closed in a lot of places. Now, I don't know about Florida, but the Performance Center is open. So these guys are being asked to go to the Performance Center on the days where they're not working. Tuesdays and Thursdays. And they're not being, it's not said, it didn't say anyway, that they were being taken off TV. It just says that they're going for extra training on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Basically, it could just be, again, a workout so to make sure that their weight doesn't balloon and get out of control. Now, WWE, again, to go back, I could give you a list of guys. As a matter of fact, I will give you a list of guys that WWE has browbeaten for getting overweight. Bray Wyatt, Mark Henry, The Big Show, Kevin Owens, Yokozuna, Cassius Ohno, on and on. They have browbeaten guys for getting too big. Now, Keith Lee has been noticeably bigger. There have been more than just me, more than just two people that have noticed that Keith Lee has gained some weight. Now, a lot of people, because they aren't thinking this way, they say, well, what's the big deal? And it's like, well, when Keith Lee almost broke his own neck on Raw, you know, that could be a big deal. If he's been asked to work a 10 to 15 minute match and he gets blown up and he drops somebody or he gets hurt, that's a completely different thing. You have to be, it's for their longevity and it's for the health of everyone around them, that they are in optimal shape at all times. This is what WWE does. You know, they are always on people about their weight. But that's the major issue when it came to me. Okay, Otis, Keith Lee, and Dabba-Kato are super heavyweights. Omos is also a super heavyweight. The guy's like 7 feet tall. You know, so he's a big dude, but he might be inexperienced. Same thing with Dio Madden. He's not a large man like the other guys, but he's inexperienced. So maybe it's just a thing where it's a mixed bag of some guys are overweight. They need to work on their stamina and, you know, control their weight, while other people need to work on their actual in-ring skills. You know, we don't know. Now, one of the biggest things I saw on the internet is that people are like, well, what about Nia Jax? She needs to go back. And it's like, well, we don't know if Nia Jax has been going through this, but people just didn't think it was a big enough deal to talk about it. Because there's been people who have gotten the you're too heavy or you weigh too much or you're getting kind of blown up, and it didn't make TV or nobody talked about it. Asuka got it. You know, a couple of years ago, they said Asuka was too heavy, and she was and she did an interview where she talked about that, and she said she likes to have an extra weight so that she could, because it helps when she takes bumps, that she wants to have a little bit of padding, but WWE thought she was getting a little bit chunky. Okay. Liv Morgan was another one. And it was never mentioned in the documentary, but if you look at Liv Morgan, how she looked before she got sent back to, before she got taken off TV all that time, she kind of had that muffin top. And then when she came back, it was gone. I mean, they do this stuff all the time to people when they're worried about their weight and stuff like that. It just doesn't always get out. Mark Henry has told multiple stories about being sent to OVW, Big Show too. And these are guys who were getting pushed, big pushes at some points, but they allowed their weight to get to balloon and get out of control. And therefore they had to get sent to OVW or something like that in order to get their weight together. That is what WWE does. It's not an indictment on their talent. It's not an indictment on their skill level. It is trying to make sure that these guys are at their optimum weights and that they have access to dietitians and physical training and all this type of stuff to make sure that they're the best that they can be. These people are athletes. Okay. So that's, and then when you have a system right now where in the world where you don't have house shows, what are these guys doing except just sitting around? Maybe they're doing some light workouts before the show. Then they work one show and then they go back home and do nothing. At least when you were working 3 or 4 days a week, you were you were not sitting around gaining weight. I mean, even though a lot of these guys that I mentioned was during the house show era, Mark Henry, Big Show, Bray Wyatt, there were house shows when those guys were still managing to gain a lot of weight. But that's a major thing right now is a lot of the gyms are locked down. In some places you see people really gaining weight because they've been trapped in the house because gyms are closed and stuff like that. So it's not just like these guys are being picked on. So another thing I want to mention is that I saw a lot of people say, well, Keith Lee's been doing this for 15 years. He doesn't need any training. They need to recognize, and I said this before in my Ricochet video, that learning is a lifetime process. Teachers have to do it. Doctors have to do it. Everybody has to go and get retrained and sharpen their skills and prove that they can still do it. Okay. And again, this is not always an indictment on your actual physical skills, your psychology and stuff like that. Vince McMahon seems to have been a fan of Keith Lee from the documentary that they just put out on Keith Lee. Okay. But again, he has always been stringent on weight. That is his thing. That is one of his pet peeves is fatties. He has always been rough on fat people, rightly or wrongly. Now I know a lot of people may say, well, it's the modern world, body positivity and all that type of shit. It's like, yeah, but heart attacks are a real thing. Diabetes is a real thing. These are real issues that don't pertain to your silly politics. Okay, he wants the guys to be in best shape for their longevity. It can't look at it as a negative. So one of the many things that I saw, and I'm going to knock this out because I was going to make a separate video about it, but I don't see the reason, is that some people have said with Keith Lee being brought up and then sent to the Performance Center so quickly, it is an indictment on the NXT system and that NXT is a failure, that, NXT doesn't produce people who are TV ready. And my thing is, that's not always the case. What I will say is NXT has its own agenda. When NXT first started, it had a single purpose: to help people learn how to work on television. That was the single purpose of NXT. Over the years, NXT became its own brand. It started having to sell its own tickets. They started working their own buildings and they had their own pay-per-view. Now they got their own TV show. So now they're just bringing in independent guys, throwing them on TV. Yeah, they probably still do trainings. But then now you have a system where some guys are never going up to the main roster anyway, so they're staying in NXT. But then you also have people who are going to be moving on, but they may not be able to get the time that they need now because they have to share TV time with so many people, and some of those people are not leaving. So NXT has its own agenda, and I think that kind of hinders its ability to do what they need to do. But I don't think the NXT system is a failure. What I think is that Vince McMahon is just kind of stubborn when it comes to certain people. Like he likes his guys. It doesn't mean if he's dead set on John Cena, it doesn't matter how many awesome guys you send to WWE. He's stuck on John Cena. That's his thing. And that's like he kind of has a thing about Roman Reigns right now. It doesn't matter how many guys you produce in NXT. Roman Reigns is his guy. You're not going to displace Roman Reigns for being his guy. So now everybody else is kind of looking for a spot, that's not Roman Reigns, or you're looking to be an opponent for Roman Reigns. So if you can't stand across the ring from Roman Reigns, he's just going to look at you and say, what can we do? I don't know. I can't feed you to Roman. You don't look like you could fight Roman Reigns. So I don't know what to do, and just throw him in the mid card. That's really what he does. And Vince has a history of this stuff. He brings in a bunch of guys and he just says, okay, you can work with Hogan. And, everybody else go populate the mid card somewhere. If you can't work with Hogan, I don't know what you can do. you know, and that's his mentality has not changed. If you can't work with Brett on top, I don't know what I can do with you. If you can't work with Sean on top, I don't know what I can do with you. Can't work with Austin, I don't know. Like we just throw his hands up. Like, I'm looking at people that I can put in this top spot across the ring from my top guys. If I can't put you in a spot across the ring from my top guys, I hate to say it like to be so blunt, but it is kind of like, what good are you? You know, you may just be a good hand that we put in the mid card, but then people will complain and say, well, you just think these guys are main event talents. It's like, well, maybe, maybe. But those are my thoughts on this whole thing. To reiterate, WWE is very strict on big dudes. And they always get the sharp end of the stick as far as being sent back to the gym or being sent to OVW. When you get out of shape, they are on you, and that's always going to be the case. It's not going to change. Even when Vince is gone, it's not going to change. You can always improve. You can always get better. Just because you've been doing something for a long time doesn't mean that you're perfect. You can always do better. You can always get better. You're in a system right now where these guys are being sent to Performance Center on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which are days that they don't work. It might not, and it usually doesn't affect their push. It did affect Bray Wyatt's push, for a while. I think it may affect Kevin Owens' push too. Cassius Ohno got fired. Yoko got buried too. So sometimes this thing can affect your push if you are super resistant to it. It can affect your push. But some guys like Mark Henry, it didn't really affect his push that he, got sent to OVW or something like that, because he got pushed when he came back. Another one was Viscera, Big Daddy V. He was another guy that they would take off TV for long periods of time so they can get his weight under control and regulate his weight, and then they would send him back. They do this stuff regularly. It's an innumerate number of people where they do this stuff with. But thank you guys for listening. I hope you guys didn't freak out. I hope the people who listens to me are above the whole knee-jerk reaction of the old man doesn't know what he's doing. Keith Lee is perfect. He's fantastic. It's like, nobody's perfect. Nobody is perfect. It doesn't work that way. Nobody is above critique. There's always something you can do better. And, Keith Lee has been making some mistakes, but so we gotta iron those mistakes out. We gotta look at what might be the causes, and the cause might be that he's kind of ballooned in weight. And look, he's on HD TV. So, and TV in general is big on people in weight, so we got to fix that. And I hope these guys can get it together, because I don't mind Otis. I love Keith Lee. I don't mind Dio Madden. David Kato, I haven't seen enough of him to have an opinion. But look, if these guys get half, look at the names of the guys that I mentioned that have been sent to developmental or reamed about their weight. Most of them are world champions. Big Show, Yoko, Bray Wyatt, Kevin Owens. Like, they want these guys to get better. They want these guys to get their weight under control. This shouldn't be that big of a deal. And the internet is, again, overreacting. And then, obviously, it also could be bullshit, because this came from PW Insider, not known as one of the... Look, the wrestling media isn't the most reputable shit in the world. PW Insider is actually better than most when it comes to stories about crime and, the news and stuff like that. But when it comes to this is just gossip stuff. We don't know how true this gossip shit is, So take it with a grain of salt. But let's say that this video was me assuming that it is true. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. Thank you guys for listening. Please take that $1 challenge, and I'll talk to you guys later.